Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And folks, we have an outstanding show ready for you. We even have a guest here joining us, Jesse Norris, aka Mr. Review himself, all the way from Xbox era. Obviously, Jesse, it's been a minute. It's great to have you back, and of course, you've been killing it with your reviews, specifically the Dragon's Dogma review. How you doing, man?
I am very well. It's finally quieted down a little bit. There's not too much coming out for the next few weeks. I'm available to do more. It's nice to be back on.
Well, it's great to have you here. Obviously, you do the hustling and bustling and the heavy lifting, if you will, over at Xbox Era. And again, congratulations to you, John, Nick, and the rest of the team. 25,000 subs to YouTube is no easy feat. That is a lot of hard work. You guys have done it the right way, in my opinion. And I'm happy to I have been on the show many times. And hopefully we even actually have some of your listeners pop in today that maybe are unaware of Double Barrel Gaming, but it's great to have you here, Jesse. And of course, thank you so much for taking the time. I saw you put up the bat signal yesterday. I'm like, oh, I got to see if I get Jesse on. And well, here you are, brother. Thank you so much, man. Super appreciate it. Steel Rain, one half of Living Split Screen Saturday morning. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Well, I've been caught up and lost in the world of the Dragon Dogma, I'm just trying to find my way as an arisen, consistently, working through different vocations, really just trying to get my adventure on and make sure that I give this dragon what he's due for by the time I get to him. And also make sure you look your characters in the eyes, guys. There's a plague going about. And if you see a little bit of that hintish red tint in their eyes, make sure you throw them off the nearest cliff. You got to get them out of there. Got to get them out of there. Because if not, there's a chance that they'll implode in a city local near you, and then you'll never have access to any of that stuff ever again.
Holy crap! I heard about that. I heard that there is some sort of a. Actually, it's funny because the guy that's like 8 feet tall, Larry is his name, as a matter of fact. He's a warrior. He was talking about. He goes, I keep hearing about this plague that is decimating city. I'm like, oh my god, please! Now I'm only 20 hours in. No, don't decimate anything.
You'll know when you got it the first time, because you'll get a tutorial for it. But at that point, from that point forward, you just want to make sure that you're kind of paying attention to your crew, seeing if anybody's being overly disobedient or anything like that, and just throw them into the water. That clears them up. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just don't let it sit for too long. It could be a very scary experience, but nonetheless, glad to be here on the Xbox Factor podcast with Mr. BoomStick XL. We got Jesse in the house. Mr. Umbra is ready to get into it, and I think we're gonna have a good time today, man. So let's get to it. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you being here as always. Infinite Umbra, obviously he's Mr. Midnights, and he's here, folks. And you know what? He's got the deep Barry White-esque voice because he's exhausted. He's gonna grab an energy drink in a hot second. But we want to welcome in here. Welcome back, brother. It's great to see you.
Oh yeah, I feel like
yeah, there it is.
With Barry White voice now.
You gonna put your key sweat on?
Yeah. No, but good morning, everybody. Good morning, chat. Yeah, that red eye disease that they're talking about. There's another name for it right there. It's the crackhead disease. You got to make sure to watch out. They'll infest your neighborhoods and start asking you for money so they can support their no, but seriously, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I haven't got a chance to get to Dragon's Dogma 2 yet because I have been trying to hold out so I can get it for PC when I'm trying to get this new PC of mine. But the FOMO is hitting me crazy because I'm seeing way too much good stuff online, and I saw that one that you even shared, Boom, with about
the one with the woman that's 7 feet tall. Yo, she had a sword bigger than my character. Yeah. And she chopped, folks. Go to my my X account and look it up. The player, because it's not my footage, has this. He does like this barbarian yell with this female who's about 7 feet tall, and the Minotaur is like away from her, and he's starting to charge, and she charges her sword that catches fire, and she like rips. She kills him in like 3 blows. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this. This is crazy.
No, it was pretty dope. I mean, I've seen other ones too, like somebody who played, I think it's the thief. Skill. I forgot what they call it.
What about the thief?
They had the two daggers, right?
Yes, that's thief.
Yeah, and this guy was doing a twirl, spin, chopping them up.
Yep.
And he cut down the what do you call it, Cyclops, and then he or ogre or whatever, and he chops them down and he starts chopping them up, and then he does this final blitz attack where he spins and does that little spin attack right across the top of this guy's head as he's laying down on the ground and finishes him off. I'm like, God, that looks so dope. I'm like, I gotta get it.
It is.
Yeah, I've seen a griffin attacking people and stuff like that flying in. It just looks really dope. So I'm getting the FOMO. That all said to get that I might have to go ahead and grab it for the Xbox and be done with it. For it's just it is what it is. But trying to hold off. But
I don't think it's a game that's going to get much better performance wise because it is CPU bottlenecked. Like it drops its frames because it's simulating everything. It doesn't can animations, it doesn't can behaviors. It's all simulated all the time, which is way harder to just dial some settings down and fix essentially. So it's pretty much is what it is. They are going to put in a 30 FPS cap, which will help a lot if you don't have a really good VRR display. But that'll probably be about it for a while.
I disagree with that. I think it's more performance for sure, and optimization that needs to be done bare minimum. I think they can get it to 60 on console. I don't think it's so far-fetched. I'm not going to sit here and because we keep doing this, and then 6 months later there's a 60 frames patch for the game. So I mean, again, to each their own. But again, if you're holding off, hey, it's very fair for you to do. People held off on the first game, but if you want a reason to jump into this game, 30 frames. Again, I'm not going to sit here and cat for it. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's okay. I think it's unacceptable, but I also have a choice to where I'm playing it. If I didn't have that choice and I only had a console, then I would definitely be playing the game on console. It's not as dramatic as people have made it seem. Again, don't complain about this 30 frame game when all the other ones are fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jesse, when you did your review, where did you review it?
We did both. I was on PC, and my coworker Chengiz was playing on Xbox.
Oh, nice. Okay, excellent. What? And now, did you happen to look at the footage from your? What do you remember? What was it capped for you, or was it uncapped for you?
I mean, it's uncapped. I was getting with it being a CPU bound game. When you're in a city, depending on what
chugs.
you're around. So the more NPCs there are, the more it's chugged. I could go down all the way to 35 or so in a city, but then have a locked 165 out in the country. So it's highly dependent on what you're doing. It's entirely about, it is the Bethesda thing we always used to run into, where they have everything running as an actual simulation. They're not canning how people go about their daily routine, and all of that just really bogs down, because as nice as these consoles are for the price, they're more GPU focused than CPU in general. So even with my pretty decent gaming rig, it can still get bogged down where my CPU usage almost gets pinged and my GPU is sitting at like 50%, but the frame rate's down in the 40s because it's doing so much work on the 60 or 70 people that are all around you in the city at any given time.
Wow. Well, I mean, listen, look, at the end of the day, hopefully at some point that this game does find its way to 60. At 30, it's fun. I'm having a blast with it. At the end of the day, as long as you're having fun, if you really want to play it the best way, I would imagine that you play it on if you have a powerful rig, you play it there. I'm playing it on Xbox. I'm loving it. It's all I want to do. Honestly, it's all I want to do. As a matter of fact, I've been playing Halo like a crack fiend, and I put that down, and I haven't touched it since Dragon's Dogma, because it's so much fun. I just cannot
one thing I'll
get
say,
enough of it.
Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't tell you most of the best stuff that's in it. It wants you to go and find it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mechanics,
point,
even just a basic thing like, okay, I've done this quest. This person has said they're going to go do this. It doesn't tell you to go look for them, but if you do, they do go do that. Like they will go in real time to the place. You can find them, and it can lead to more stuff. So it is one of those games where just what people say is really important. So pay attention to it because you will miss incredible stuff otherwise.
The reason that you had it where you had to get to 60 frames or more uncapped on PC is why I'm waiting to get that build and why I tried to hold off. I'm still trying to hold off, should I say. I'm almost giving up, but I'm trying to hold off because I would rather get it at 60 or more performance wise. And the thing is, I think people are going to just have to be understanding that if you're playing it on console, whatever console that might be, barring Nintendo, of course, you have to accept what it is as far as the frames and such.
I mean, but even on PC, it's extremely unoptimized. Like that's the other side of it that we can't ignore. Just because you can power through things does not mean that it's optimized. This has been an ongoing thing with Capcom. Monster Hunter came out unoptimized. Resident Evil came out unoptimized. These games come out on unoptimized on release, which is another part of the conversation that needs to be talked about versus how everything went down the rabbit hole of microtransactions. Let's hold their feet to the fire for things that actually matter to us as a consumer who are paying $70 day one. This game definitely could have benefited from a 6-month push. But again, money is money. You got to release it when you got to release timelines or what they are. But the majority of the issues in this game, if I had to point something out, it's definitely performance. Again, it's just it's unacceptable in today's day and era, but again, that's an ever-revolving wheel that we're continuing to have the conversation for, and eventually, hopefully, they'll end up getting that. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's a game that I think you're going to hear about when we get to it, when we all get close to the end of the year. It does. I mean, I was telling this to the guys in the green room, like as gamers, not as one platform eccentric or another. I mean, just as gamers, we've been very lucky. We had a couple of years ago Elden Ring come out of nowhere, and it was a mega hit, won Game of the Year everywhere from everyone. The following year, again, depending on who you ask, last year was pretty ridiculous. But for me, like the tip of the spear was Starfield. And of course, now in 2024, we have another monster game, no pun intended, that has exploded on the scene. We all kind of figured it was going to be good. I had no idea it was going to be this good. I'm having a blast with it. I tell anyone that there is a lot of a misunderstanding. Is this a Souls-like game? It is not.
No,
it is an action adventure game.
It's Monster Hunter RPG.
Yeah, Monster Hunter. That's a great point, Jesse. Very Monster Hunter-esque. You are traversing the world. The more curious you are as an explorer, the more you are going to get out of this game. If you are someone that literally does cut and paste playthroughs, meaning that you play a game, you go here, you go there, and maybe you're not going to get much out of it. Every time I'm on a mission to do something, I am finding caves. I am finding wells with ladders. I'm finding all kinds of different things that make me go off the beaten path. At night is treacherous. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were talking about it, and literally when I got off the podcast yesterday, I started playing, and it was pitch black. I turned on my lantern, and all you hear is a giant roar from the distance. And then the trees start to come down, and it was a freaking ogre. But it wasn't just like the Cyclops one. He had armor from head to toe, so you had to get behind him to start knocking off the pieces of armor, so you could actually do damage. It was phenomenal. I actually recorded it. I dropped it. I dropped it on Twitter. And again, random. It wasn't a mission. I was literally just walking through the woods. It's dark. It's dangerous. And yeah, this happened. It was incredible. But look, one of the stories we didn't get a chance to get to yesterday was something that is true and dear to this old man's heart, and that is Toys for Bob. Now, I'm not the biggest Crash fan. I do like Spyro because of the platform nature of it. Crash has never been my thing, but we had a story that was written by Jez Corden of Windows Central. Obviously, you know how I feel about Jez. He's a good friend of mine. I consider him to be the tip of the spear when it comes to integrity in the gaming journalistic community. Obviously, we saw what happened yesterday with Christopher I'm a Fraud Dring, who, of course, has become Mr. Irrelevant in gaming, and he figures that if he's gonna spark some Xbox controversy, he'll get the clicks. That is not what Jez Corden is. Jez Corden is he's one of us. He's a gamer. He's a diehard gamer. He is accessible. He is open to criticism, and he's one half of the Xbox 2 podcast, one of actually my favorite podcasts to listen to each and every week. Obviously, you have the Iron Lords to be a part of that. Obviously, Steel and Pong. You got you got Umbra here. Obviously, Jess, Xbox Era. You guys do a great job there. Well, when Nick is there, well, I don't know. There's a lot of Nick controversy, if you will. Nick, I love you, brother. I know you're in the chat. But this story gets me excited because, look, at the end of the day, I have no problem telling you that I'm a big old nerd that's doing something that in my wildest dreams I could not imagine I would ever be doing. And that is hosting a video game show 5 days a week that I get to talk about my favorite thing, and that's video games. And why this story just warms my heart is because, like Paris Lilly, of course, Paris is known all over the place. He's a Banjo bro. Like, he wants a Banjo game as bad as I do. And why is that? Because Banjo Kazooie is freaking awesome, and it's been way too long since we had a new one. Now, when I say new, do I mean like a brand new story? I actually don't need that. I'm gonna take this from the ground level and say if you allow Toys for Bob to do exactly what they did with Crash and Spyro specifically with Banjo, you are going to get an amazing experience that is currently absent from Xbox Game Pass when it comes to family games. Now, the story that I have in front of me here, again, it was written by Jez Corden of Windows Central. It was posted 3 days ago. Obviously, I believe it was on Friday. It popped out. Xbox has reached an agreement with Crash Bandicoot Spyro developer Toys for Bob for their new game. Now, if you didn't know, and maybe you do, of course, most people know, they have become an independent studio, getting away from, obviously, Microsoft, the umbrella of Activision. And in this exclusive that came the way of Jez Corden, it says Toys for Bob, known for handling Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, is now working with Microsoft on their first game since going independent. And it goes on to say in this, sources have indicated to me previously that Toys for Bob's culture didn't gel well with Activision's often restrictive corporate mandates, and that they were excited for the opportunity to spin out as an independent in agreement with Microsoft. When they initially spun out, they released a statement indicating that they were confident that they would work with Activision Xbox in the future, and that they were exploring a possible quote-unquote partnership. Now it seems that those talks have bared fruit. Jez goes on to say in the final paragraph of this article, Toys for Bob may be independent, but the fact that they told fans to keep their horns on could be in reference to Spyro the Dragon, which enjoys a passionate fan base to this day. The humorous 3D platformers that Toys for Bob is often associated with are also owned by Microsoft, but for now have no dedicated developer. It seems entirely likely that Toys for Bob's first game out of the gate could either be within the Crash or Spyro universe, but it could also be something completely else. Look, I think that it's safe to say, Jesse, that this is anyone that had hopes of a new Banjo game happening, well, it's probably going to happen with Toys for Bob, or it's just not going to happen. And we can know that for a fact because Rare has been asked this to death. They do not want to go back and do a Crash game. And we know Phil Spencer, as a leader, he doesn't, quote unquote, force anyone to make a game that they don't want to make. And I think that's not that. Listen, I got no problems with that, because that's what happens. Well, you get bad games when you force people to do something they don't want to do. But they own Toys for Bob, and Toys for Bob in previous years, before being owned by Microsoft, has publicly said they would love to do a Banjo game because they're known for platformer greatness. Do you think that this is going to be a fruit that or a tree that bears fruit in the form of Banjo?
No. They said when they were doing their we're going independent thing, it was keep your horns on. And then Jez cheekily pretty much only, I think, had Spyro images in his thing. I don't think Banjo is tied to Toys for Bob. I think they seem much more interested in continuing the work they started on either Crash or Spyro. So I would personally guess a Spyro game if I had to out of anything. And I mean, any decent developer that comes to Rare and Xbox with a pitch for either a new or remade Banjo game, it's always a possibility. It could be something being worked on now. You never know. Everything takes forever to make nowadays. I don't think it's unlikely that not Toys for Bob could make a new Banjo title at some point. They've heard the rumbling enough. I doubt it would be a huge budget, especially something just starting back up. But with Toys for Bob, I definitely got the feeling more that they're really interested in Spyro.
Okay, that's fair.
Big time. So that's where I would guess they're going.
I mean, listen, keep your horns on obviously is a dig. Again, I'm coming at this from an angle of a fan that has been looking forward to a revival of a pair of platform heroes. I loved the first two. I tried to play through the third one, which was not that great, to be honest with you. And the vehicle building just it didn't feel like a Banjo game. It just really didn't. It never jives with me. So I can go back and I can play the first two. And I think that we are in an era, no pun intended, Jesse, where we in fact can see a revival, but it doesn't have to be a brand new $50 million, $100 million budget. We can see a remake of the original. You don't have to do much for a remake these days, especially if you're going to follow what is already there for you. I don't know who in the world can do it. I mean, I originally had suggested to several people that it could be the ukulele developers. Obviously, that entire team, or at least most of it, is filled with ex-Rare developers. So they would be a great fit for it, at least in my opinion. And we haven't heard anything new from Ukulele in a while since their side scroller came out, which was phenomenal. So I don't know. Again, you're right, but I'm still gonna hope. I'm gonna carry the hopium around with me, Jesse. Even though it's I mean, listen, who's to say that they can't start working? We don't know how far that the Keep Your Horns On game is, right? Is it a new Spyro? I would imagine so. They did remake the other one. It was really good, really well done. I bought it. I loved it. I don't know, man. I just hope at some point that we do see it. Banjo-Kazooie is a character that deserves a revival of sorts. But we'll see. Steel Rain. Let's get your hot take on this. Toys for Bob. They obviously they said that they were intending to work with Microsoft and Activision. Well, they are. They have partnered on their next game. The game seems to be a potential sequel to Spyro. Not what I want per se, but what are your thoughts?
I think Spyro definitely makes the most sense. I think out of all of them, like if you put Banjo up there, you put Crash up there, and then you put Spyro up there, I think Spyro is more than likely the one to stand out amongst them. At least especially coming in from childhood, because I grew up with a lot of those characters. Spyro was always the more memorable, although Crash, I thought his games were a bit better for sure. But I haven't revisited Crash. So I guess there's going to be definitely maybe a little bit bias here. I don't think that a lot of those games have aged the greatest, or the characters have aged the greatest. So if there was one that I would personally think that it would be, especially coming with that information, it would definitely be Spyro. And I think that's the best route for them to go. You need more family friendly content into an Xbox Game Pass, and additional games that can compete with possibly with Nintendo. I throw that out there only because of the more so kid-friendly type games that you could throw on there. And I can see my daughter probably possibly hopping into Spyro for a bit when she sees this cute dragon breathing fire all over the place, adventure. But I don't know. On one side, I also still feel like maybe that may not even be worth it, and hoping to do something kind of new. But again, just going with the information that we have in front of us, I would assume that it would be Spyro. Makes the most sense. It's easy character to sell. And then going into the holidays, I mean, again, you get plushies, toys, all that good stuff. And who doesn't love a cute dragon, right? Yeah, exactly. that's kind of how I'm looking at it. So as far as Banjo goes, yeah, I don't think they'll ever return to Banjo. Unfortunately, I'm not either on the Banjo train or off the Banjo train. I just think that if people didn't like Banjo's most recent iteration, which I've heard people say that is actually better than people were given the credit for, and I don't remember which one that
was on the
was.
Xbox 360. That is a long
nuts
time
and bolts.
Ago. Yeah, nuts.
Well, I hadn't played Banjo since Nintendo 64. So wow. Just to give you reference, I have not cared about that character, and I don't see anybody else caring about that character outside of you and Barris Boom, and some of the few others that I've seen definitely talking about it. Unfortunately, but the Burden to Bear would definitely be cute if they would make it back. But since they've already said, no, we're not interested in that, I'm definitely interested to see. Since they seem motivated by their personal beliefs and what they want to put out there, I think Spyro is probably going to end up being a magnificent game from them.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, you know, I came into this very excited and positive, and I'm walking out with my head down. Banjo is not coming back. God damn it!
I would, to give you a little hopium, I would say there's a lot of devs out there. They've got a big publishing arm. I don't think Banjo's never been tied to Toys for Bob.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm saying that
it made the most sense.
It made it. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point.
It makes sense in our head, but it still does have to come down to, do they have a pitch for it? And like that is the thing with all of them. It's always, if you just assign it, you get something soulless, and that's really what they're trying to avoid.
Right. Yeah, no, between them and Rare, they're like, nah, we don't have the passion for it.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we do have some older IPs coming back in the form of Perfect Dark. We have Fable coming back. Obviously, at some point, we're going to get a new Halo. We're going to get a new Gears. We're going to get a new Forza. So they do return to older IP, and certainly 3 of the ones that I mentioned are pillars. I cannot wait for Fable. I cannot wait for Perfect Dark. I think we're going to get a chance to see that up and running in a big way this June. Again, it's just thoughts and theories at this point. For Banjo, though, it's there are some things that are, when you look at how great Game Pass is, Umbra. There's a lot here, right? There are, the one thing that most people can say about I think most people can admit about Xbox Game Pass is that there are 500 plus games there, and there are genres of every ilk. But there are some that are still missing. Obviously, the fighting genre, which we know they have the IP for, and that's coming back. Killer Instinct is being made, a follow-up or a reboot, however you want to put it, is being made like right now as we speak. That is a fact that has been already put out there. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that. But Umbra, the kid-friendly aspect of it, they don't have platformers of their own, but they do. I mean, obviously now they own Spyro, now they own Crash, but Banjo, man, is it going to make some people go out and buy an Xbox? Well, I don't think so, but I think that just because it's not going to sell, 10 million copies doesn't mean that it's not worth making a new one to at least appeal to a fan base that appreciates that kind of IP. What are your thoughts on the hopium that I have for a new Banjo? Maybe not from Toys for Bob, but by somebody.
Yeah, somebody, it seems like, right? I mean, shout out to Hargeet, who just said it. Phil did mention that. We hear you, right? The classic line. So it's possible. Typically, when Phil hears us, things will happen. So there is hope there, I think. I'm not sure if it'll be Toys for Bob, but I wouldn't put it past it being them. It makes more sense for it to be them, especially since they're going to be independently contracted outside of Xbox and Activision now. And I mean, we all had our speculation of why they were like given their freedom, so to speak, their freedom papers, and it seems like this is fits in line with that they're now obviously speaking on making this game for Microsoft that they didn't disclose. But I mean, I know the article that was posted by Windows Central had Spyro, and if they're using that for that, I'm gonna guess that Jazz and company must know who exactly must be the first target for Toys for Bob, and it's probably Spyro, right? But yeah, I think they'll probably contract them in general to make all those games, Conquer, whatever it may be. If it's a possibility of bringing back these more, I wouldn't necessarily say family friendly with Conquer, but something that's at least in the cartoonish expanse, I suppose. So it'd be cool if they use them for that. Absolutely. I wouldn't put it out of the way for Banjo and Kazooie. Again, I don't know if it'll be them, but I don't see why it wouldn't be them. If I had to rely on anyone in close proximity to make that, they would seem to be the one. As far as the soulless thing, I don't know if they would be soulless on it. I don't think they would have any, and I say that because I don't know if they would have any adverse feelings on working on it personally. I don't see why they would. I think they would be one of the perfect catalysts to bring forth a new generation of those types of games, personally, seeing what the work they did with Crash and with Spyro. Yeah. So yeah, I think it seems to be the case that obviously Spyro and Crash would be the two that they would have. But if they were to go out more in Microsoft, and Phil heard us and he wants to bring that out, it seems like they'd be the perfect team to do it.
And I agree. I say this, look what they, and again, this is the hopium, folks. First of all, shout out to Will Fry Rosario. Says Boom really wants this game. Yeah, yes, I do. I've been begging for this game. Oh my god, I had a chance to meet Phil a couple of years back, and I could have asked Phil anything, and it was just me and him talking, and it was amazing. Like I literally pinch yourself. Holy shit, he is who we thought that he was. That's Phil Spencer, and I could have asked him anything. And I talked to him about Banjo Kazooie, and I'm not sorry that I did. Honestly, I'm not sorry that I did. And of course, shout out to Drake Williams in the chat. Says, "Go play Super Lucky's Tale. It's a great platform, brother. I beat both versions of Super Lucky's Tale, and freaking loved it. That game is hard as hell. I'm going to be honest with you, especially some of the bosses. Holy crap! But yes, thank you so much for the suggestion. I did beat it twice.
You should have asked him if he was going to bring back Voodoo Vince.
I mean, they did an HD version, which I beat. They did bring it back because he used to play. Phil talks about it. They used to play that with his daughter, which is pretty cool. I did actually beat that. Look, again, not the biggest topic of the show. We're going to get into a big topic right now, and that's his handheld. This interview that Phil did with Polygon is loaded with nuggets, and I got to give shout out to a very great friend of the community, Post Up, who actually put a tweet out with all of the quotes. And I have the Polygon story, but I want to shout out Post Up. But real quick before we get there, let me catch up on some super chats here. The first one of the day comes the way of Sith Lord, who is of course a Banjo bro. Yes, he drops, folks, a very generous $2 super chat and says hashtag my Banjo bros. Indeed, don't be ashamed to be a Banjo bro. There's plenty of room here. There's lots of seats left because there are not a lot of Banjo bros, but it's okay. Hey Blinken drops very generous $5 super chat and says Microsoft could have the Super Lucky's Tale team dev or ukulele developer make Banjo. Yeah, both of those are great picks, dude. And I know we can't be the only ones that have been talking about this for sure. Galvestron drops a very generous $2 super chat and he says Dragon's Dogma 2 on GeForce now runs at 60 plus FPS, no lag for me. Holy crap, really? That is freaking awesome. Yeah, GeForce now is a behemoth. There's no doubt about that. Look, real quick before we get into the big topic of the day, folks, I got to tell you about Valari Gaming Pillow. They are one of the only companies that Double Barrel Gaming has teamed up with. It is a gaming pillow that you have in front of you that goes around your waist, and it keeps your posture straight. It keeps your hands of like in between your stomach and your chest, and it's literally, it takes the pressure off of your lower back. Again, I'm very transparent, as you know, as a former New York City police officer who was forced to retire because of I had a massive back surgery in 2014, and I am surgically put together. And there are some days where sitting on the couch is bothersome, and it makes me not want to play a game, because it again, if anyone that has back problems could understand, could relate. So when Valari reached out to Mrs. Boom and I to try it out, I was a little skeptical, because we get offers all the time, and a lot of the stuff is just junk. And I'm not gonna. If I'm not using it, I'm not trying to sell it to you. I don't care how much money they want to pay. And they did. So they sent me one. I'm using it. The one I'm using is the one that was gifted to me by King David of the Iron Lords. Their pillow is dope. I'm in talks to get a double barrel gaming pillow made. I know they've already stitched the logo. It looks phenomenal. So we're still talking in the background. And again, folks, if you don't believe me, just go on their website and see how many people did testimonials. It works. It really does. And if you're interested, I'm going to play the commercial that was developed for me by Sean LeBrie, an incredible artist of this community. Because I'm really not a cue card kind of a reader. I kind of like shoot from the hip and tell you honestly how I feel. And the Valari Game Pillow works, folks. So check out the commercial, and I'll give you the code at the end of it so you can get one yourself if you choose. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is the code DBG15 at checkout. It'll save you 15% off your entire order. And obviously, again, go check it out. If you're someone that games a lot, if you find yourself punching over like we all do because we're putting the controller into our lap, this gaming pillow will retrain your brain to keep that upward posture, and it works. Like I said, for me, I have a lot of work back there. I'm fused L4, L5, S1. Everyone knows that. I've talked about it before. I look like Wolverine, except I don't have claws, and well, I won't live forever. And it's crazy. So it does work, and it has helped me as a gamer game comfortably. And of course, that is going to do it. Again, the code, if you want to check it out, is DBG15 at checkout at the Valari Gaming Pillow. You can go right into the show notes and click the link. Right, it'll take you right to the website. But Jesse, look, we got to get into this Xbox handheld. I mean, we know that Xbox is currently working on a whole bunch of next gen hardware. We know that there's a rumor that has been floating around that the next hardware is coming 2026. I've said this before. I think you guys have even talked about it. If that comes to fruition, there's a good chance, Jesse, that they're going to jump ahead of Sony. Sony's PlayStation 5 Pro is expected to release this year in the fall, potentially the holiday season. Makes sense. I think the only thing that might help hold it up is there's no first-party game to release with it to show off why you should buy a Pro. And I don't know whether or not Sony sees that and says, you know what, we'll hold it for the following year. Whether it's this year or first quarter of next year, Microsoft is potentially rumored to be releasing their next box in 2026. This handheld, though, I mean, we've seen a lot of them. I've owned 2 of them. I had a Steam Deck. I sold it. I currently have a ROG Ally. It's great, but it's really not my bag. It's very PC heavy. And when you hear what Phil Spencer had to say about what he wants, because he has them all, and he always talks about them. But I think when you really dig into what he's saying, he wants what I want. And that is a console that is Xbox branded. It's Xbox dedicated. It has an Xbox OS. There's PC stuff going on in the background that I don't want to know about. I simply want to turn on my console or my handheld, and I want the console-like experience. I want an Xbox logo to pop up. I want a dashboard to pop up. I want all of my games that I have purchased to be playable. See, that's not something you can do right now with any of the handhelds, because you can use your Game Pass stuff, sure, but you can't play your games that you have purchased in your library. I have over 1,000 games, ranging all the way from OG Xbox to current Xbox Series games. And I would like to play that at my leisure, and you can't do that right now. This proposed handheld, though, suggests that not only is it going to be native, unlike the Sony machine that's currently available, which has no hardware on it, it's simply just a streaming device. This is going to be a legit piece of equipment or a hardware that is going to, I think it's going to sell like hotcakes, especially when you consider what's coming out this year and what people already have in their libraries. So I'm going to read you again. This is coming from Post Up. If you don't know who he is, you probably should follow him. He is a gentleman gamer. It's at postup_SOG on Twitter. And he says Phil Spencer can't stop thinking about an Xbox handheld. And he goes on to say, and this is quotes directly from Phil Spencer, I want my Lenovo Legion Go to feel like an Xbox. And this is Phil Spencer saying this to the Polygon reviewer or interviewer during GDC. He says, I bought the Legion Go with me to GDC. I'm on a plane, and I have this list of everything that makes it not feel like an Xbox. Forget about the brand. More like, are all of my games there? Do all of my games show up with the save files that I want? I tell you one game that doesn't right now, and it's driving me crazy. That is Fallout 76. It doesn't have cross-save. He goes on to say, Jesse, I want to be able to boot into the Xbox app in a full screen, but in a compact mode. And all of my social experiences are there. Like, I want it to feel like my dashboard on my Xbox when I turn on the television, except I want it on those devices. I mean, just it seems like the next evolution for Xbox is a handheld. Again, this is one of those situations where Sony put out one last fall. It has sold very well for them. It is a piece of hardware that a lot of people have bought into. It's only $200. I have held it. I have used it. I have played with it. The screen is very impressive. The problem with it for me is if I can't take it outside the house and I can't like load up native downloaded games to it, it doesn't hold any value to me, because I'd rather hold my PlayStation 5 DualSense and play on my very expensive high top quality TV than play on a handheld. That's different if I'm on the go. Where do you kind of were you guys at you and Xbox ever falling on the next evolution needing to be an Xbox handheld that's branded with its own UI and its operating system that is very much like an Xbox?
Yeah, we were pretty much talking about it earlier. It's just the only thing that makes sense for them moving forward, where it is the way they've set up this generation with the Series S and its power profiles and the Series X and its power profiles is they're conservative. Like, they're not pushing that hardware as hard as they could. And it has always felt like the main reason for that, especially with the S, is because it gives you a much more approachable target for a handheld down the line when you can get your power draw and all those requirements lower with like lower nanometer processes and all that various stuff that I have no idea how any of it works. But just the way they talk about it, the way Phil has constantly been talking about it, and he did another interview with Polygon today, and it is pretty much just people are, especially like I see it with my kids, people are not conditioned the way we were growing up, where it is, you follow this box, you get these games on this hardware, it's the way it works. Now, it very much, like, especially for my kids, they're like, I hate it when something's exclusive. I don't like exclusives at all. It doesn't help me because now I can't play with my friend unless they have the exact same thing. It's a generation growing up realizing that exclusivity has never really helped us. It's always just been, the hardware was very different and the companies were very small, and actual gaming developers weren't that numerous. And so it got siloed for those reasons. But everything's a little PC now. You get yourself an actual Xbox native handheld that is just a Series S in your hand, and it is a game changer because it's obviously going to be something you can dock if you want to. It's not going to be cheap. I don't think they'd go a heavily subsidized route with it. They'll probably price it at like something closer to 500 and still lose money on it because that's just the way it is.
Yes.
But then if you pair that with something super powerful that's like 700, people are kind of used to that now because they're spending $500 to $2,500 every year or 3 on their phones. Like,
yes,
it's a very, very different approach than we have been used to growing up. And I'd say most of this, the interview yesterday, the interview today, is essentially Phil getting people like us who didn't grow up with this system, who are used to A versus B versus C. Each has their own specific games and hardware that I really care about. And it's now more, well, games can be more places. What is the overall experience, though? Because I know a lot of people who do leave an Xbox to go to a PlayStation are shocked that they have to pay for cloud saves and that the UI is kind of dog shit and that this controller feels a lot better than anyone I did before, but I've got pretty big hands and now my hands want to crack in half whenever I use the DualSense. Like, there are always benefits and things that aren't going to work out best when you don't actually know what you're getting into, and they kind of know. We've got our core audience. If we can keep that and slowly grow by adding in everyone we can, everywhere we can, we'll be fine. I've had so many people on our forums, in our YouTube chat today, like, oh, why they should just pack it up. And it's like, no, they're making more money than ever. They're just doing it in a very different way than we are used to. And this interview, today's interview with Phil on Polygon, everything he's been saying, he's laying the groundwork to try and explain how the industry actually works versus how we are used to it working is how I've been looking at everything. And an Xbox Series S equivalent handheld, it makes the most sense imaginable.
But Jesse, Christopher Dring said,
I'm out after those first few words.
Look, we're not going to cover that here because it's negativity, and the guy. Look, don't feed the animals, because when you do, they keep coming back. That guy's a knucklehead. I'm sorry. He is anti Xbox. He is who he. Look, folks. The best way I can say it is like Coach Green. He is who we thought that he was.
Oh, classic.
That's all we're going to get out of him. He's a boob. Don't pay any attention to him. Listen, as a former police officer, when you're doing investigative work, right? The telltale for people that are lying are people that look up a certain way. You're trained to see that, and you're also trained to see the people who stutter and who are trying to divulge too much information that most of the time doesn't make any damn sense. He did that in the interview 10 times over. He is a liar. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. He's a knucklehead. But Steele, I want to go to you because, look, as much as I want a Banjo Kazooie game, and I'm a big old nerd, I want a dedicated Xbox handheld. I want it to be Xbox branded. I don't care what color. It could be black, it could be white, it could be green. I don't care. I just want simplicity. I want to turn on the game, turn on the console, and be immediately get what I would get. And Phil, that's again, when you read through the notes here, that's exactly what Phil wants from his potential Xbox handheld. And for me, I'm here for it. Let me continue to just read some of the things that he said during this interview. According to Spencer, the Xbox hardware team led by Roanne Soanes is considering, quote unquote, different hardware form factors and things that they could go and do as it plans the future for Xbox hardware. What should we build that will find new players, Spencer asks, that will allow people to play at times when they couldn't go play in the past? And finally, with you, I'll read this last quote here. He says, I like the fact that Valve, Lenovo, and Asus went out and innovated in a new form factor. And I will say that when I'm playing on those devices, it almost feels like a console than a PC. 9 times out of 10. The thing that usually frustrates me is more Windows based than device based, which is an area I feel some ownership of. Like, I want to be able to log in with a controller. I've got my list of things that we should go and do. Again, he is speaking my language. This is what I love about Phil. He comes at this. He's a businessman. He is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. We all understand his positioning, but hearing him talk in this interview is very understandable and digestible for me, because it sounds like a gamer asking for what I'm asking for. The big question is what you want out of an Xbox handheld.
What I want out of the Xbox handheld is for them to blend the two ecosystems in such a manner that nobody questions or nobody feels overwhelmed on the device that they're getting. Something similar to the Steam Deck, but is Xbox exclusive and has the potential, like a lot of those handheld devices, to be unlocked, so where you can open the better part of Windows, so you can add additional things on there. Kind of like what they did with the Series X, right? Allowing you to, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is the first time that they've like included being able to just easily get into the dev side of the console.
Yes.
In like day one. Like I never anticipated that even being a thing. And the fact that they even gave you a way to get into it and you could pay this much. And anyway, just knowing that is a possibility, and also knowing that they're working on Windows Lite behind the scenes. And that's just been something that's been constant in development, because Windows is known to be bloated. And if you try to put Windows as it is on a device like that, it's going to take unnecessary, I can't think this morning. I need my second cup of coffee. Sorry. It's going to take unnecessary. It's going to take unnecessary performance that you could use for other things, right? Also hearing that they're possibly involving ARM, and I know a lot of people are kind of scared about that because, oh well, the cloud, they're going to make things more cloud based. And again, I think it's more so because we use ARM in our phones currently. And the biggest thing that ARM has impacted with our phones is being able to have the battery life and the performance. So, and ARM is also more essential for doing a specific thing. So if they were able to get ARM to specifically run the OS, for an example, that could be of help. Man, that would save up some additional resources potentially. There's just so many things that I want to see them continuously innovate, because that's what makes consoles special to me. Is not this, because we're getting to this point where things are becoming extremely blended. Again, to Jesse's point earlier, kids definitely look at things differently, but even I, as somebody who's kind of grown with gaming, I'm about to be 32 years old this year. So I've seen where it started off with like the regular Game Boy or a Game Gear, for an example, for me, Super Nintendo, things like that for me. And then grew up with modern era gaming, online gaming, and seeing the transition. And I think that we definitely need to be focusing on more of community, more ecosystem, more services than we need to be focusing on what games are on what platform or why they're on that platform. Again, we have been traditionally trained to think that way, and the only people that's ever benefited was these companies. And again, I understand when people say, "Oh well, exclusives matter, and if it's good for competition," there are so many ways to compete outside of, oh, Spider-Man's exclusive to my platform, get this box so you can play here. No, what you're doing is just limiting more people. So you're getting what you've gotten today, a limited amount of people willing to take the plunge into gaming, whether that be for price, whether that be for convenience. I mean, obviously convenience is one of the biggest factors, because again, my kids don't care about the same games that I cared about when I was growing up. And if that's not the case, then all these games that we all get excited for in the community, no, the generation behind me is not looking at those games. They could care less. Dragon's Dogma 2, I can say it's a good game all I want to. My kids ain't looking at that game. They could care less. They're looking for the next Five Nights at Freddy. They're looking at the next whatever other game. Roblox game is going to come out. Minecraft game is going to come out. Fortnite that might come out. That's nowhere in the scope of what we are even used to. So how do you change what inherently, where one fan base believes, you've made a fan base believe that we have to do things a certain way. And the main way that I think you kind of really traverse that ground is coming out or relinquishing yourself of being hardware dependent. Continue to focus on, or get back to focusing on, what makes you special in the ecosystem, right? Microsoft Xbox has always been better in the services in the ecosystem side of gaming. That is their strong suit. So why not relinquish yourself and say, hey, instead of, us focusing on the hardware, again, like they said, hey, we need to kind of pull back. We need to look at different ways to jump in. If you can get involved in the PC handheld space, right? And this is a point that I'm always going to continue to make. The fact that the PC handhelds are now under $1,000, to me at least, and I think it should for a lot of other people, should speak leagues and bounds by itself. That was a space that I thought we would not be able to enter for some time because of that price to performance. The fact that you have a Steam Deck at $499, $399 bodes well to the fact that you can have other forms of hardware and still see some success. Again, you want to get into those Eastern cultures, right? You want to get into these markets that have a better internet infrastructure. You want to really test what the cloud can do, right? You want to be a little bit more future facing. Yeah, you need to get a handheld, a native handheld. And I was joking with, I think that Xbox should team up with ROG and do an Xbox Ally, because there's already a partnership there. There's already, and with Windows already being on the device, it's easy to say, hey, let's put Windows Lite on there. We've worked out some other things in the back end, some drivers updated and whatnot. I think we got something that can really work for you guys, and we'll just pitch you in. You guys help with the hardware, because ROG, I would think, in a partnership, would love to see something like that, because they're not making money off of software. They're making money off of hardware. And if you can supplement that cost, we as gamers are going to be the one end up being the ones who are winning. The future only bodes that we as gamers are going to be given additional options to enjoy what we want. But if we want to continue to get in the games that we love, the games that we care for, the single player games, not everything be live service, then we have to open up the market to something that's beyond 300 million gamers, between just console, not including the PC. And Xbox has already blended that when they put games on PC. Again, PC gamers will tell you that they don't want console games, but they're loving the console games right now. The same way the console gamers used to say that, oh, we don't want those PC games, but they love the RTSs that you're getting on console now, as an example, some of the survival games and such. So I believe I think Microsoft is on the pulse of the industry this time around. This isn't a situation to where, oh, they're too little too ahead, or, oh, they don't have any clue. And I do want to say they partially don't have any clue, because nobody else is doing what they're doing in gaming currently, or what they're trying to do. Nobody else knows what the future of gaming entails. It's a guessing game going from this point going forward. So for me, people being overly critical of whether they jump into the handheld market or not, I think it may be a little bit too overbearing or too much over the top, or some of these people I just don't see as, if you said you were an Xbox fan, it's hard for me to believe that you're an Xbox fan if you do not still see the vision that they've been giving us since 2015, I would say. And even they solidified it when Game Pass got involved. And when you hear people come out and say, oh, well, Game Pass is sustainable, this, that, and the other thing, they just had a business update saying that they're going to double down on Game Pass. Game Pass is the motive still. So which one is true? Are we going to continue to listen to the people on the outside, or are we going to listen to Xbox? Because they've been consistent in what the expectation is and trying to change the narrative. And Phil, again, is repetitively saying that, hey, things aren't working, things aren't growing, things are becoming more expensive. We have to find better ways to do these things. Yep. And us just keeping it on it's just my box, I get my box, and this is the games that I get on my... No, I need to open it up to more players, because I need to access these people wherever they are. If you think that that's a bad thing and is a negative thing for gaming, or it spells the end of gaming for you, I personally think that might be a little short-sighted, and I think we have nowhere to go but up, and I think it's exciting to see the direction they're going. So
I agree. Listen, look, I'm old school, and I mean old school. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm 20 something years older than Steel Rain. Oh my God, I'm so old. It is crazy. Like, this dude's gonna be 32 years old. I'm 50. I'm gonna be 54 this year. Oh my God, dude, that's crazy when you think about it. Look, I was raised in an era, and there are a lot of OGs here, where we were conditioned that you bought a particular console because it had Mario or it had Sonic, right? We are eons, leaps and bounds from there. Seeing the direction that Phil and team are taking Xbox, I'm not getting off this hill. There are exclusives that I do not think belong in any other platform, but I'm old, and those are crosses that I need to bear. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I hope that it doesn't happen, but whatever. Getting back to this, though, I think Steel Rain really does drive home the point where we are in an era of gaming where accessibility is so open and so vast, right? And he said it, Jesse said it, and we're going to hear from Umber right now. These younger generation gamers do not care where they play. They do not care. They are the tablet and phone generation, which is why mobile is so popular, which is why Microsoft really wanted to get King. Look at the reception and how much money that they are making on Warzone Mobile. It is a phenomenon. There were 50 plus million pre-registered players before the game released last week. And well, it's doing ridiculous numbers. And I think what's incredible about that no one talks about is that it's cross-pollination, meaning that you play on your phone, you go home, and you play on your console, and all of your stuff is there. It's cross-save, cross-progression. It's crazy that happens. But Umber, I want to bring in for the handheld conversation. Now, this particular one, obviously, I want to give the credit where credit is due, because when I don't, I want to punch myself in the face. I pulled this story. This was from Polygon. This is the first Polygon interview with Phil Spencer. It was posted March 25th. It was written by Chris Plant. And great work, Chris. He doesn't know who I am, but I know who Chris is. And the final paragraph here is very interesting, because he goes on to say, Phil Spencer, that over the past 7 years, we've seen now let me say, is this Phil Spencer or this is Chris? No, this is okay. So this is Chris's this is the last two paragraphs, Umbra. And this is Chris. He says, over the past 7 years, we've seen the Xbox development team get creative with its software, moving games into new platforms, building up the Game Pass subscription services, and making games playable on smartphones through streaming. As we wrapped our conversation, Spencer wouldn't outright announce the official Xbox handheld, but he did say that he sees a similar level of creativity coming to the hardware that Xbox has brought to software. And this is Phil Spencer. I think it's important. You and we've been around for a couple of days. Look at the real inflection points in our industry. Like look at the Wii. It was hardware innovation that was linked to great software innovation. And I mean, look, this thing is coming at one point or another, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whether it releases simultaneously with the 2026 release of the new hardware. We're going to get it. Personally, again, this is me thinking outside the box. When we had that business meeting with Phil, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty, Sarah Bond specifically said that their next hardware is going to be leaps and bounds above anything that's ever been done before. That's the big box, and that they have exciting hardware that they're going to show off this fall. Now, is that the handheld that's ready to rock and roll? I don't know. We've heard about them working on a handheld almost a year ago, maybe even before that. Remember, this was a rumor for years that they were working on a handheld. Is it coming to fruition where they could release it? And you know what? In a year that they have a lot of first-party games, and Game Pass has now 34 million plus subscribers, yeah, you know, it would be pretty dope to have that come out. And on top of that, you have potentially Call of Duty Black Ops Gulf War releasing into Game Pass day and date. It would be a huge selling point for this thing because, again, they're trying to appeal to us who can afford to spend $500. But there's also a whole multitude of gamers, younger gamers, who play on handhelds. What are your thoughts on, bro?
Yeah, largely in line with what you guys said. It's interesting to me because, you know, I have the ROG Ally, though I have MJD who might try to mock me for it, but no, the ROG is dope. So I look at it though and say, hey, how do they compete with that? Because the handheld market has kind of been really competitive lately. You have the Steam Deck, you have the the ROG, you have the Lenovo Go, you have even, you know, Nintendo, if you look at it that way. So it's competitive itself, but I think Microsoft could definitely get into that and do some things with it. What I would say, what I would want them to do, at least if we're talking about that, we just had this article where, well, a quick little article Tom Warren put up, you guys saw it already, I'm sure, where he was saying that Phil spoke and hinted in the Polygon interview that, you know, they would try to open up the Xbox, seeing how the console market isn't growing. So they try to open it up and possibly implement the Epic Game Store, things of that nature. We had this talk before, way back, when the whole thought of maybe them integrating PC somehow, like Steam and stuff like that, into the next Xbox will be a thing. And I think that still will be a thing. Now, Jesse mentioned the docked situation. Sounds like Jesse knows some things that we don't know, but Jesse might not tell
I leave that to Nick and John. They're the ones that do their insider stuff. I just
John.
Educated guesses.
John, welcome back, brother.
I hear you, brother. But no, that was the rumor. Like I heard it too. It got around, you know, the rumors got around that it will possibly be a docked situation for the handheld. And I think that could work pretty well. That to me also, because one of the questions I asked, and I believe I had Post up as a guest for that one too, when on the fix for my show. And I said, well, how much would something like that cost? And I think we came to a conclusion that it would have to cost somewhere in the upwards, I would think, of maybe $600, $700 if I'm looking at the ROG as a model, because I look at the ROG Ally ROG, I got the higher end one, I think it was $700.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if they would do that. But then of course you got to keep in mind the price range that works for console sales, right? So I'm guessing, yeah, maybe 5 or maybe 6. It depends, I guess. But I feel like what they'll do is give us the docked version like we had heard about, and the higher end Series X like version, but dock it and it'll possibly be close to that. Maybe, I don't know how that will work out, but yeah, if dock it, make it, you know, accessible like the ROG, because I can dock my ROG to my TV and play it on the OLED too. Definitely streamline it rather, whether I can play we can play our Xbox games and stuff in our library straight off through it without having to go through the, as you would say, Boom, the rigmarole of Windows. Because it is a problem. And if you're not like super PC savvy, like myself, I'm not super like, okay, now I want to move my BIOS over here. Yeah, that's me. I get through it, but it takes some time, right? But there are some people who are just not adept when it comes to PC, when it comes to all of that, and the ROG is problematic for that reason for some. Again, I've had issues with it, and that's one of the reasons why I've held off on going to PC for so long, is because like I don't want to have to go through updating drivers and troubleshooting this and that. So if they can get around that, I think that hurdle and kind of make it where it's a native thing and just handheld, but a native Xbox experience, they'll have a W on their hands. And it's not like the people don't want it. It's plenty of people, Xbox gamers in the community, who want to have a handheld, and they've been asking for it for years. So it fits, it works. I think they just have to find the right pricing for it and give a compelling reason to have it. I think if they can have it where it's not just your Xbox library, but if they can somehow work out something where they can get PC integration as far as Steam and Epic, I think it'll be hard to ignore that personally, especially if they have a good price for it.
Yes, I agree. I think it makes sense. It honestly, because you could do that right now with the ROG Ally, you can do that with the Steam Deck, you can do that with all of them.
Yeah.
Where you
that's
have
why
access.
I feel they have to. That's why I feel they have to have it, because
they absolutely have to have it, because if they close it off, they're really pigeon-toeing themselves to only Xbox. But again, hardware not selling the greatest for Xbox right now. If you release a new hardware SKU in the form of a handheld that we've all been asking for, right? That is, let's be fair, the standard hardware that I'm looking for is simply plug and play. Turn on the power, my dashboard comes up, I pick my game, I get into it, I go. But if I want to, there should be an ability there where there's a Steam app, or there is an app for your games, wherever they may be. And if this, again, it only makes sense for it to be a streamlined Xbox in your hands, but offer the ability that if you are someone that has a Steam library, that has games on other platforms that are, PC bound, you have access to those games by simply downloading an app, pressing that app, getting into your Steam store, and downloading those games. I think that there is something to be said about that. I'm gonna be completely fair and honest, folks. If it is just a Xbox handheld that plays all of my 1,000 plus games I own plus Game Pass, I'm actually okay with that. I don't have a problem with that. I know some people want this grandeur, ability to play here, there, and everywhere. Well, you can do that with ROG Ally. You can do that with the Steam Deck. You can do that with the other one, the Lenovo, wherever. I just, for me, want an Xbox dedicated OS that plays as simple as pressing a button, it comes on, there's my dash, and we go. That's what I want. And who knows? Maybe we get a glimpse of that this holiday. Now, again, Sarah Bond said holiday. As far as I know, that the only show that is available, that is going to be out there during the holiday, is, of course, the Keeleys. I don't know. I mean, they've showed off hardware before, so they could show it there. But unless, maybe this thing is ready to rock and roll, and they release it. Maybe they surprise us this June and say, "Hey, this is what it looks like coming out this fall." That would be a conversation to be had, and we'll come back to have that conversation. But before we move on, I want to make sure everyone got their points. Of course, anybody want to add anything extra to the conversation?
I was just asking you guys the pricing. What do you think it could be? Like,
I think it's $500 if it's just the Xbox handheld. And I do think that they would take a loss, but it could be $599. And if it's, I'm here for it. Again, people are going to spend that kind of money on a ROG. I'll spend that kind of money on an Xbox handheld personally.
Yeah, I'm of that same mind. It's probably going to be around that same price, $499, $599 range.
Yep.
Especially with it being kind of like a mid-gen type thing, because my previous expectation was if they did it at the same time they released the new hardware, then the new hardware, like the console itself, would be $499. Then whatever the handheld device would be $699. That would be the premium one, because it does have that functionality, and they wouldn't cut corners on it, so it would have that. Maybe a little bit better of being like a Series S, or maybe a little bit better depending on what hardware is looking like at that point, what it didn't get fit in there. But if it ends up releasing much sooner than later, then I can still see it being right around that $499, $599. It just depends on what they ended up putting in there. But
yeah, listen, we're gonna see, right? We're gonna see soon. Listen, we're gonna move on to the next topic, but before we get there, gentlemen, I do have to catch up on super chats. Of course, welcome in. Now, again, I keep saying it a lot. The software that I use is StreamYards, and where I have this available is on Twitter. You obviously on YouTube, and I stream it over to Facebook. Nobody's watching it there, but it's fine. It's just another place for people to find the channel. We have over 900 people watching, 938 to be exact. That is pretty freaking good, man. I got to tell you. And we are incredibly humbled by the kind of viewage that we get. If you're finding the channel for the first time, folks, please consider subscribing. I do this Monday through Friday, 5 different shows, 5 different panels, all great content. You know what we don't do? We don't hate monger. We don't sell you on lies. We do not try to clickbait you in here. When I tweet it out there, by the headlines you read, that's what you're going to get unless something breaks that's during the show. And of course, we do cover all breaking news. And we'd appreciate if you subscribe. And of course, while you're still here, please consider hitting the like button. We definitely appreciate that. We have a super chat here from JJ saying 117. He drops, folks, a very generous $5 super chat and says, I just want to say I really enjoy your podcast. Well, dude, that is very kind of you to say. I'm glad that you do. He says also, what do you think of Christopher Dring's talk about Xbox? It looks like nothing but clickbait. We're going to probably cover that on Thursday. I want to read more up on it. I watched the clip. I think it's preposterous. I think that he is shooting from the hip. It's fine. It's, you know, he's allowed to have his opinion. I 1000% disagree, especially the very poor takes on what they're doing with Xbox Game Pass. I think it's a farce. And I think, like many media sites that are struggling to get people in the door, they use these very ridiculous Xbox headlines to get people in who enjoy that kind of rhetoric. That's what happened here. I haven't taken him serious in years because every time he says something, it's always ridiculous. And there's never sources. It's all rhetoric. We'll cover that probably on Thursday, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat. Simon Brandy drops not 1 but 2 super chats. The first one of £2. He says this: Metro running headlines. Metro Xbox going multi-plat again. Yeah, Metro is one of those sites that are probably struggling with getting people through the door. And well, hating on Xbox sells, so they'll get some people to read their wares, I guess. But Simon, thanks so much for the super chat. And of course, Simon drops an additional £5 super chat and says, Phil said Series X was a pro. The GPU is only 1.8 gigahertz. If they bump it up to 2.2 gigahertz for a digital X, it's comparable with the PlayStation 5 Pro. Don't rule it out, Boom. Yeah, I mean, we've heard that they're working on a digital X. I mean, we've seen it. I don't know if it's going to be the square or the cylinder like we saw in those leaked documents. Listen, the thing with the PlayStation 5 Pro that a lot of people do not take into account is the fact that it's the same CPU. I'm not a tech guy, but I have talked to tech people like Kay Asante who've explained this to me. And the CPU is going to be bottleneck city. It's the same CPU. It is not a better CPU. We'll see what they do with it. But unfortunately, we're really not going to see what they're going to do with it because they don't have a game coming out this year. So how are we going to be able to tell that this console that they're going to probably want $599 for is worth it? I don't know. Let's see. We have CY Studios, Central Florida. Brother, thank you so much for hanging out today. He drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, funny how I heard for so many years that Xbox did need a handheld, and now that there's a PC handheld are hot, and Xbox rumor, everyone sees it as a good thing. I mean, I've always said they needed a handheld. I mean, but a lot of people, it makes sense. We can see it. Obviously, when people are playing their games on a handheld that's specifically an Xbox, it makes perfect sense now. I think that there are a lot of people that were on the fence or maybe not in the same camp. I think those mindsets have definitely changed. We have Nightwolf 3186. What's up, brother? How a long time, no time. Hopefully you're doing well. He drops a very generous $2 super chat. And he says, did my first super chat not go through? I was on early. Nightwolf, let me see, brother. I don't have it here. I can go into YouTube and check it out there. Let's see. CY Studios, Central Florida, drops an additional very generous $2 super chat and says, if I can't play my PC library on it, it's a failure. I mean, again, you're not the only person. People in the panel seem to think that it needs to be open-ended, giving you an ability to play everything. Gamer by wait a second here. Simon Brandy drops an additional £5 super chat And he says, what frustrates me about Xbox is that they put too much emphasis on brand loyalty and wave the white flag. Produce innovative hardware and gamers will buy it. Yeah, I mean, this is something they're going to do. There's no doubt about it. How long it takes to get there, we'll see. Hopefully it's this fall. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $10 super chat. And he says, it's funny. People want Xbox to get more console sales, but if the market's not growing, then you are only getting customers swapping devices. We see many of these same users not buying games, so does it help? I mean, that's a phenomenal point. I think that people in the industry currently, for and pro, whatever platform your favorite platform is, are really too focused on this whole console sales thing. I think that when the year is done and Xbox will still be in third place, when they are in first place in money made, then it doesn't really matter, does it? Right? Like you can sell 60 million PS5s. Awesome. But if you're not the market leader when it comes to how much money you profited from this everything that you have going on, then are you really in first place? Yeah, you're in first place by I sold XY number of consoles. Okay, awesome. I don't really I think people discount or put too much emphasis on the console sales. It's not about that. It's about engagement. It's been about engagement for years. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. Lord Roughness drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, I'm more excited about a native Xbox handheld, which so am I, than a next gen ray tracing, more teraflips or T-says teraflops, more FPS, especially how the gen is turning out. Yeah, I mean, I'm here for a native Xbox console that gives me an OS that is like my current console, like my box. That's all I want. But Jesse, here's the thing. When you talk about 2026, which is what is supposed to be the next big innovation in hardware for Xbox, that is the rumor. Well, yesterday, Klobrille put out a tweet, as he does, and I'm a big fan of Klobrille's work, where Bethesda Game Studios started to kind of talk about Elder Scrolls 6. I'm hyped for this. Elder Scrolls 5 is a game that is still being played by old players and being discovered by new players. It's probably running better than it's ever run. If you play it on PC, there are mods for weeks that you can get into. I don't play Elder Scrolls Online. It's just not my bag. I want a straight up single player, story driven Elder Scrolls. I think we're going to get that as a launch title for the new hardware in 2026. So with this, again, it's just a quote, folks, but take it for what it's worth. He goes on to say, this is coming directly, and I quote from Bethesda Game Studios. Last but not least, yes, we are in development of our next chapter of the Elder Scrolls 6. Even now, returning to Tamriel and playing early builds has us filled with the same joy, excitement, and promise of adventure. So the game is playable. Now, how playable? I don't know because I'm not a developer. Jesse, this comes on the heels of yesterday being the 30th year anniversary of the Elder Scrolls series. That's a big deal. But where do you kind of fall? Because I know that this game is going to be exclusive. You know why? Because Phil Spencer said that on record in court that this is an exclusive. This is the type of exclusive that has such mass appeal that if you told everyone that this was a launch title for your new hardware, you would see frenzy-esque engagement. People want the next Elder Scrolls. Now, is it exclusive to just the Xbox? No, it's going to be available on PC where a lot of players are going to play it. But if you're launching new hardware, Jesse, and this is in tow, along with potentially one or two other big bombs, I think you're onto something. Do you think that this actually gets to 2026 and launches?
Nah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I hope so. It would be cool,
right.
But I think they have so much coming. They have so much in the pipeline. They don't feel a need to force, especially with the way the business is so dominated by a handful of like 8 or 9 really permanent fixtures atop the money-making pyramid. They've got enough stuff to keep their audience engaged, because the only reality, I think, for most people outside of trying to build up very powerful lists to throw at each other's faces is there are too many games. Nobody can keep up with all of them. Now, you might have very specific tastes, and there just hasn't been the thing you really want. Like, I played 5,000 hours of Destiny. I haven't found something to replace that type of people. But for their broad aim that they have to have for everything, they can't just worry about the hardcore. The hardcore matter. They evangelize the platform. They might spend the most money, but like they have to worry about everyone. And the casual market is enormous. It is what has carried PlayStation for 20 plus years. Like,
yes,
for everything people talk about with huge exclusive games, like that wins hearts and minds and lists, but the actual moneymaker is Fortnite and Minecraft and Call of Duty and all the Genshin impacts. Like, all these third-party things are the most important games, and now Xbox owns a bunch of them. So for them, they definitely want a constant cadence of big releases, and they had a good one last year, even if Redfall didn't hit for you, and people are very hard in their retroactive trying to make it seem like Starfield was a failure.
Right.
But like, people are like, oh, just waiting on the games. And I was like, no, there's been plenty of games. 2022 was the one year there wasn't big AAA games.
Right.
They had good first party and good Game Pass, but they didn't have huge tentpole titles. So people point to that. But also this generation, there's also been huge swaths of time where PlayStation didn't have much. But then they'll have a Spider-Man, and that's good enough to have carried the whole year in people's minds, because it's just this defeatist attitude that people have whenever they follow this platform for some reason. But as far as Elder Scrolls go, I think it will just be it's when it's ready. I don't think, especially after they reorganized the entire friggin' structure because they didn't have good communication, so that Arcane could say, we need more time, and Todd could say, we need more time, essentially. Like, people were in that mindset. We've got to have a hard date and go for it, and then we've got to advertise a long time, and people realize now, no, you can do 3-6 months of advertising instead of a year, spend way less or close to, and still get the same value out of it. So I'm out of the prediction business on timing for stuff, because I doubt they know. I doubt they have slots, and this is set for this is set for this is set for this, but there's so much now with all the teams they have that they can just move things around as need be, depending on how production goes. The hard work for fixing up the engine, and the Creation Engine 2 is really good. Like, you go back and you look at Starfield and you look at the material quality and the mesh quality on people and everything. You can have problems with the art style or the lack of doing full facial capture after people got used to it in Baldur's Gate. But the actual tech in that engine's really good. You could just point to some game design things that might feel older because of the way Bethesda goes about it. I don't think it's going to take that long. I just have no idea when anything's coming out anymore.
You know, that's a really fair point. They don't have to rush the Elder Scrolls. From a WoW factor, Steel Rain, I think having Elder Scrolls ready to rock and roll for a new console release would be massive. But Jesse does bring up some great points. One of the things that is very interesting and very exciting. This is when you hear people say Xbox got no games, or why are we still waiting? They have a roadmap, ladies and gentlemen. I understand that you don't have a lot for first party right now in March, almost at the end, the start of April. But Hellblade 2 is around the freaking corner. You got Towerborn, you got Indiana Jones, you got Avowed, you got a lot of stuff coming this year. But to the point of next hardware, where Jesse really does knock it out of the park, is that they have so much in development, like literally so many games that they could easily slot in a launch for this next hardware, which again, it's rumored to be 2026. I think that it's more than a rumor at this point, and I really do think that if they could jump Sony by 12 months, 18 months, maybe even 2 years, you might have an Xbox 360 situation happening in real time in 2026. What are your takes on the potential of an Elder Scrolls 6 releasing with a new console? Is there an importance to that?
I think there is some importance to it for sure. Elder Scrolls 6, I mean, you might as well take your time with it. They took your time with Starfield, and if being under Xbox, regardless of how you feel about Starfield, I still think Starfield was at bare minimum an 8 out of 10 for me. Even with some of the issues that I had with AI and such, that it was go back and forth between a 6 and an 8, but I ended up landing at an 8. So if that's the case, and it only boded well for Todd Howard and the team with Starfield, then I can only imagine it could be the same thing with Elder Scrolls. And that's with a game that already has all the back-ended, all the back-end work done for it already. The story, the character designs, there's a lot of those things that you don't have to think about or make sure they work or make sense that they did have to do for Starfield, which is part of the reason why it took so long. So going into the Elder Scrolls 6, if it is going to be of that Skyrim-esque quality, again, I'm a noob when it comes to the Elder Scrolls series. I just revisited Skyrim, what I want to say this year, maybe a little bit of last year, and that's with 2,000 plus mods, trying to get it to play a way that it wasn't meant to play, or it didn't play back then just because of what I prefer in my combat systems and whatnot. But with that, it can only bode well for Elder Scrolls 6. And if you put it on a platform for the next console that has a bit more of the power, or if they continue the trend that they kind of set with the Xbox One X, I would say now, where you come out either a little ahead of the tech hardware wise, like what they've done with the Series X and the Series S and PlayStation 5, even although the Series consoles are a little bit more, or definitely at least a year or two more ahead. That's part of the reason Xbox waited for those consoles. If you could continue that trend, that's exactly what's going to help you in the future, right? But the only bad thing about that is kind of what we're seeing now. I do want them to wait just for the fact that you want something to sell that box. I don't want another platform to come out, even PlayStation, where they release some hardware and there's nothing around it to help bolster that hardware, or say, hey, here's this console, but you can go play this old game on it. Okay, that's great. We got that with the series and the PlayStation 5 console, that you already made that great for me. You've been doing that since the one in the PlayStation 4 generation. That's great. What else can you do? I would much rather them see, hey, we've used a lot of the tools that we used to talk about in the series generation. Now we can use all of those. And I think the PlayStation is going to be an easy kind of sight into the future, mainly because when that Pro comes out, it will finally be able to see a lot of the tools that are holding the series consoles back be able to be used, because developers will have to use a lot of those things that are on the forefront now. So, and again, just following the trend, I think that's just going to work extremely well for Xbox in the long run. So,
no, I mean, good stuff. Real quick, Jesse just put this into the chat. According to Xbox Insider, mouse and keyboard support is coming to Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta starting today.
That's fire.
That's super today. Fire. Release notes are updated with all of the details. Beta, Delta, Omega are coming soon. So be sure to check out the Xbox Insider Hub or xbox.com/insider for more information. I mean, I'm not a keyboard mouse guy, but whoever is, that is good for you. Thanks, Jesse, for that. Super appreciate it.
I will say, for the last point, I think they're going to be more on rolling generations akin to phones and tablets and stuff. So
yeah,
we will eventually have to get used to things. Yeah. Hardware comes, there might be some patched hardware or upcoming hardware. The more stuff like Dragon's Dogma that's unlocked, you see the immediate benefit of it. But with the rolling hardware focus and keeping the Series S profile, I do think it will be it'll be different than we're used to. It already is, essentially.
Yeah, I listen. It's the world, the gaming world is rapidly changing. I don't think that we could even predict what is going to happen, especially with the hardware. But I'm here for it. I'm here for change. I'm here for handheld, for portable. I'm here for home consoles underneath the TV, and I'm also here for gaming on other devices like your TV, for instance, which would be, which I can do right now because I have the Samsung, one of their latest TVs, and it has the hub. It has GeForce Now. It has everything I could possibly want. I can play everything right there on the TV. It's crazy. Umbra, let's get your hot take on this potential. First of all, we have 1,000 live viewers. That is freaking
hit
awesome.
that like button.
Thank you so much. Hit the like button if you can. If you're watching us on YouTube, for the love of Joe,
we are legion.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. Consider subscribing, number one. And if you're being extra generous, you want to feel like you're having a great Tuesday, hit the bell, the thumbs up. It'd be greatly appreciated. Umbra, let's talk about next gen hardware. It's coming. It's potentially going to release in 2026. We don't know. Again, it's the rumor. Elder Scrolls 6, they're working on it. They have been working on it for a while. How far? I don't know. But based on what we read from Clobriel, they're playing the game. How far is that build? I don't know because they don't say. But I still think that if you're going to release new hardware in 2026, it would be pretty dope to have that IP launch along with it. Now, nobody wants anybody to rush. You don't want something broken. You don't want a half-baked product. You don't want any Starfield shenanigans. You want it to come out and you want it to be this amazing follow-up sequel to one of the most sold, most played games of all RPGs. What are your thoughts on this? Is there an importance to having Elder Scrolls 6 ready for new console hardware?
Absolutely. I mean, it'll be dope if it had launched with the next gen. But now we're hearing that, it might get next gen in 2026. So I don't think it'll be ready by that point. But they say it's in a playable state. I don't know how far that is, like you said, but I also would the way I look at it with them too, and I felt this way even with Starfield, is like, hey, take your time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Take your time. Something as important as the Elder Scrolls series. I have Oblivion. I've said it once. I'll say it again. Even beyond Skyrim, I have Oblivion on my Mount Rushmore of games. It's one of those. And so for me, it's like, take your time and deliver something. If Todd Howard and team is going to go out on a bang, and with a bang rather with himself, because I know his career is winding down, then take your time and deliver that opus, that magnum opus, right? So I would want them to take the time. I don't think it would launch with it because I don't think they're at that point. Personally, seeing past discussions they've had and things like that, I don't think it's far enough where it's like, okay, 2 more years and we're there. I don't think that's the case. And again, I look at Starfield and they needed all that time and it still wasn't all the way there, right? Like it still was some things that, that it could have had more of. But so yeah, take the time with it. It is important though that if it was to launch with it, absolutely, that would be a major W for the launch of the next Xbox and would help it sell really, really well, especially if it was exclusive. I'm wondering now if it will stay that way, but I don't know how they might approach that when it comes to that. But if it is, regardless of whether it's a launch title or not, it is a matter of if them just sticking that landing, sticking that, like you just did there when you smashed the guy with the hammer, just sticking that landing. That's all it comes down to me, is just sticking that landing and delivering I guess once in a generation kind of RPG that we've become accustomed to from them. That's what I would say. I'm happy to hear that they're this far along, though. I wouldn't have guessed it until I saw that actually pop up.
Yeah,
because it seems, and then you hear about this, and then you start to wonder too. Okay, well, what about Fallout and things of that nature? Right? It's so much that we don't know how they want to handle. So I don't know. I feel like at the same time too, I don't know how many people they have helping them out with this.
I mean, Bethesda's a big studio, but I mean,
it is. But if I had the power, if I was Xbox, I'd be putting major firepower behind them to make sure that they got everything they needed to get this game done and as fast as it can be, or not fast as to skip ahead, but fast as possible with the best quality, if possible, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't know when it will launch, and it's hard to say, hey, at the launch of the next Xbox, because from all rumors that we're hearing, that'll be in 2 years. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thinking on that.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. And again, like I said, I only brought it up because obviously they're talking about it. It was the 30th anniversary yesterday. It is relevant to a conversation. I think that having that particular IP as a launch title, is it likely? No. Is it possible? Well, anything's possible. Personally, I think that Xbox finds themselves in a very, very powerful, unique position where they literally have so many games in development and there's new hardware coming, and not just in the form of a new box underneath your TV. There's potentially new hardware releasing in the fall. Again, speculation right here. We don't know for sure, but we're going to get some new information on new hardware this fall, a la Sarah Bond. Is it the handheld that Phil is now talking about publicly? I personally think so. And again, June is a couple of months away. It's going to be the big, it's not the E3 that we know and love. It's going to be a games fest, if you will. I don't know what they're going to be calling it, but there's going to be reveals. Xbox is going to have their show. I would imagine Sony is going to have a show. Nintendo could have a show for the next hardware that got delayed until next year. It's going to be crazy. And of course, I'm going to try and get out there to cover it all, boots on the ground. But Jagger, shout out to you, brother. 0718, thanks so much for being here. He questioned the 1,000 people. That is across multiple platforms. Again, it's a software. It tells me that there are 1,039 live viewers. That is across Twitter, that is across Facebook, and that is across YouTube. So they combined all those numbers, and that is how many live viewers we have. I'd love 1,000 in the chat for just YouTube, but we send this to multiple places, which is why they take all the numbers that are live viewers and they put them into one pot. And the pot says now 1043, which is great. It's great engagement. We could send it to other places, but those are the 3 that I use, and the channel is doing pretty good. I got no complaints here. Listen, gentlemen, let me make sure I'm caught up on all super chats. And we have here, let's see. Okay, so yeah, we have a new one from Hey Blinken, who drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, how will the Xbox handheld handle our digital libraries and Game Pass? Will it need to always be online? I got to be online to pop achievements. That's it. I mean, I would imagine it has to be online. If
it's going to be a check-in.
Yeah, it's probably going
to be a check-in.
Yeah, you
24 to 48 hour check-in.
Yeah, and it checks in and all your stuff is there. And I mean,
if it's just an Xbox, it will work the exact same way as any other Xbox does. So if you have it set, if it's your offline console, it'll still be able to do those things offline. But yeah, achievement popping, obviously everything else that normally requires being online, you'd need to be online.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, Jesse, listen, let's get some outros. Get everyone out of here on time today. I know that we had a super chat that is missing. I'm going to try and find that. Jesse, by all means, please sell your personal brand. Where can people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media? But more importantly, find you and the guys, John, Nick, and the whole crew over at xboxera.com. What you guys got going on over there?
So we've been doing a new show every Tuesday and Thursday. We do headlines at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's our new news show. We obviously have the Xbox Era podcast every pretty much Saturday night. It's changing up because we all keep bouncing between. We already did daylight savings. John is about to, and I think Nick is about to. So time's all shuffling around. But yeah, so we've got not that many games coming out. I will be reviewing these Odyssey LCD GX headphones,
nice.
This Turtle Beach Stealth Ultra controller, and I've got the Elgato 4K X capture card reviews. Those are all be coming out in like the next week or two.
Excellent.
Not a ton for games. Mostly it's just going to be lots of live streamings. We've been doing a Hangout stream where I use Parsec so I can show my gameplay and John's at the same time, playing a lot of Redfall and having a ton of fun because I still really enjoyed that game. What can I say?
I put 80 hours into it. I'm not sorry, Jesse. I really enjoyed it so much so that I beat it. And when they got the new update, I rolled another character, and I'm enjoying her as well. And I know people are gonna throw virtual tomatoes. That's what they do. I really enjoyed it. Is it perfect? No. Was it fun as all hell? Absolutely.
And it is 60 FPS on console. I know a lot of people seem surprised by that, but they patched it. It's got a FSR implementation. It looks pretty darn good. Runs really well. But yeah, all our stuff is just xboxera.com. You can find it all there.
Nice. Nightwolf, I found your super chat. I don't know why it didn't pop up on the stream, but I got it right here. Nightwolf 3186. It dropped actually the first super chat of the day of $5. And he says, "Hey, Boom, glad I'm here. Awesome to hear all of these stories in Dragon's Dogma 2. Reminds me of when Starfield came out and heard your stories. I can't put it down." Yeah, I think that's the best part about this is when you see people put up gameplay and you listen to other podcasts when people are talking about it and I'm playing it, you're playing it, you can envision what they're doing and what they're talking about. It's a lot of fun. And we also had a super chat come in here from our very good friend Hargi Chani. He drops, folks, a very generous $10 super chat. And he says, "Many of the things I've been saying about next gen are seemingly coming together. Windows is their superpower. If the next gen Xbox is just native Windows for games, it eliminates the last barrier, 2026. I agree. And I think that story that just broke that Jesse was talking about from Polygon, and I think that Tom Warren is talking about, is really going to be a great talking point for tomorrow night's prime time gaming. I'm going to see if I can get some tech people, because obviously Hargi Chani understands tech. He'll be joining us. Obviously, my brother from another Kay Asante will be joining us. We'll see if we can get one or two more people to talk tech. I'm going to see if OBM might be available, because he's a tech guy as well. This is all very exciting. It's very exciting if you are a fan of gaming, but I think it's even more, folks, an exciting time to be an Xbox gamer, because Xbox is doing things that no one else is doing. That is why you should get excited. Jesse, I appreciate you being here, brother. Thanks so much for the hard work that you specifically do with the reviews, because I love your work over at Xbox Era. And congratulations once again to John, yourself, Nick, and the whole crew. 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. Super, super proud of you guys. They've done it right. If you want anyone to look at and be like, yep, this is what I want to do, look at Xbox Era. I love those guys over there. Phenomenal people, phenomenal website, and great work all around, Jess. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And Steel Rain, speaking of hard work, well, you and Tong Soul do that each and every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have sometimes a 3, 4, even a 5-hour podcast where it's my first go-to. When it comes to the cleaning of the house, I usually listen to Kay Asante's show, and then I got you and Pong in the background as I'm taking care of the house while Mrs. Boom is working. And it's always a great listen. Sell your brand, kind sir. Tell everyone where they can subscribe to Living Split Screen, and more importantly, find you on social media.
Well, you can find me, Steel Rain. That's Steel Rain The T is a 7 everywhere. Google's probably the easiest place to type in all that information. And you'll find it all there. But definitely come out and check a non-console centric platform known as Living Split Screen. We talk about everything going on in the industry. We take that RTS approach, real-time strategy for those who don't know, where we pull ourselves out of the world, look at the darker crevices of the map. We pull our resources together so we can not only build up the foundation for us, but also the foundation for those potential 3 billion gamers that Phil Spencer always used to talk about. Other than that, you can also find me right here on the Xbox Factor podcast, right here with Boom. We bleed green a little bit for sure, but we talk about everything good Xbox, and overall, Boom's a pillar of the community. He's been doing wonderful things. Continue to support. And everybody, before you leave, make sure you hit that like button. And if you need more from me, hit me up in the message DMs, whatever the case, and we'll talk to you next time. Much love. Appreciate you, Boom.
Super appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much for the very kind words. Shout out to Xbox Era, who's like, the Tom Warren hate is ridiculous. He's a professional with excellent sources. Yes, he is. I like Tom. Listen, we all get it wrong. That's a fact. When you get it wrong, like I've done before, you get out in front, you get out on Front Street, and you let people know that you got it wrong. That's the right thing to do. Tom has done that. I like Tom's work a lot, and that's why I consider him to be, for me. Again, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anyone else. There are a couple of pillars. I like Tom Henderson. I like Tom Warren. I like Paul Tassi. Now, Paul, I don't always agree with a lot of what Paul thinks, but that doesn't mean he's a bad journalist. I like Paul a lot. Of course, Jess Corden, tip of the spear for me for integrity when it comes to journalistic integrity. But again, the hate is, people, they're going to hate. That's such as life. It's disappointing, but I like Tom. Infinite Umbra. Let's sell your brand of the fix. You and Danny put on an amazing show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, each and every Thursday. I don't know if you're doing a show because obviously we're getting closer to Easter, but I would imagine that you're going to do a show. There is a lot to get into. Sell your brand, kind sir. Tell everyone where they can subscribe to your YouTube channel and, more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yes, sir. Good show, fellas. Great to have. I would say to even have Jesse jump in. Jesse, I would love to get you on the program one day, brother. I said this one day while you were streaming. I think. Well, I know I did. While you were playing, I forgot what you were playing, but I said it while you were. I was in the audience. Also, too, you guys got to get me in your Helldiver session. I could carry you to victory. Because I saw
you got to be careful. He will just blow you up repeatedly.
Listen, he can't be worse than
drop a pot on your head.
He can't be any worse than Risk It. Risk It will have your whole squad killed off.
They're both Australian.
Yeah, there you go.
Very true. There might be something to that, Jesse. Good point.
Right. Kill first, ask questions later. But yeah, get me in there, man. I can carry you all to victory. I saw you and John playing, and I was like, okay, John could use a little guidance too. But no, that was pretty dope how you guys did that. We said it was Parsec, right? I think it was. Yeah, that was pretty dope. I like that. Yeah, man, thanks for joining us, and of course, your great takes as well, brother. Always, you bring good energy always, especially since I'm lacking it sometimes in this morning point. So it's great to have you here as a counterbalance, for sure. In chat, thank you all for being here and for the encouragement to keep us going. You guys, of course, can find me on Twitter X, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. And on Thursdays on the Fix, myself and Daniel McGee, like Boom pointed out, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central for us. And I put the link in the chat there. If you guys have not subscribed, or if you could come by, check us out and give us a chance to see how you like us. I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about a few things, including wrestling. We talk about a variety of things. Wrestling, a variety of things we talk about from media, not just gaming. So we talk sometimes. We'll go on a tangent about wrestling, for instance, and it'll be like 40 minutes that'll go by, and we just had this resurgence, in my opinion, of wrestling with The Rock coming back. And oh man, I've been loving it. It's
bringing attitude era back, bro.
And that's what it's feeling like, right? Yeah, man, I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. So yeah, come by and check us out, guys. I appreciate you all in the chat for holding us down.
Nice, brother. Well, so thank you so much for being a part of the show. Super appreciate it. Once again, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing. We greatly appreciate that. And of course, just a reminder, there will not be a new Breakfast with Boom this Friday. Mrs. Boom and I are going to take let our hair down, so to speak, and we're looking to go on a nice hike super early in the morning, get back on the trail. Yeah, and we're going to, let people enjoy the holiday weekend as we kind of drop it into neutral for a bit. There will be a new primetime gaming tomorrow evening. There will be, of course, another X-Vlog Live Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my co-host, C Money. And then we're going to take the rest of the week off. Again, real quick, we are giving away a bunch of gift cards on Thursday's X-Vlog Live. It is our way of giving back to the community as we enjoy doing, because obviously the community is very generous through Super Chats and channel membership, and we want to pour that back into you fine folks. And we're giving away right now is going to be $100 worth of gift cards, 4 $25 gift cards to your platform of choice. And if you are outside of the Americas, we will send you that money via PayPal. We pay all transfer fees. You have to pay nothing. And if you support us, even if you're not in the U.S., we will support you as well. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.